Welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm Philip Ellis.
I'm Laz Marquez.
And I'm Ian Carlos Crawford, and today we are here to talk The Magicians Season 2, Episode 9, Lesser Evils. This is the episode, this and the heist episode were the ones I've been looking forward to the most this season to talk about, because they're the ones that I do feel like when I fell out of the show a little bit after we completed the Beast storyline, when I got back into it, those were the episodes that I was like, okay, wait, yeah, I should see the greatness the show would become. And yeah, rewatching it, I still loved it. What'd y'all think? Laz, what'd you think revisiting this?
Yeah, I think I think that it is very much kind of like a setting up of conflicts that may or may not come. So I hate to use a filler episode, but I think that it was a stepping stone into what might come in the future. So it kind of captivated me. It intrigued me because there are steps that are very large in this episode, and I can't wait to see more after.
Philip?
That's kind of my take on it as well. I loved sort of watching it for this episode and then realizing halfway through, this is actually the musical. This is their first real musical episode that I'm watching, because I always forget where that falls. But in terms of the rest of the episode, it is very much we've concluded the Beast arc, and we haven't quite started the fairy storyline, which is obviously where this episode goes and where this kind of that's where we're beginning.
I forgot that was this episode too, till I saw it, yeah.
But it's nice to see that we've just got every character is doing stuff and making choices in this episode, whereas we've spent so much of the season spinning our wheels, and it's okay, we're not quite at the next big chunk of story yet, but we're so nearly there.
This feels like the prologue to I don't know, or prologue or epilogue? Right?
Prologue. Yeah.
Prologue. Yeah. We're going into the big showdown with Reynard, and we are introducing the fairies, and there's just again, I know that we're doing sort of spoiler-free chats, but it's oh god, there's so much good stuff that is just about it's just around the corner.
All those chess pieces are kind of coming into place.
Yeah, I most people this season have been big fans of the Alice Niffen story. I know you are too, Laz. I don't love it. I get very tired of it very quickly. I think that actor is having fun and she's doing a good job as the Niffen.
Yeah.
But we are circling the drain with Quentin's got her stuck in him. He's not telling anyone.
So from the last episode that I personally was on, everyone knows I'm a huge Alice kind of, supporter. I love that she kind of represents this universe's kind of Jean Grey Phoenix kind of person, entity. But I agree with you. I think that it becomes repetitive to a point where it's you need to move on from that and take that next step.
Yes.
And that's the thing for me is when I think of Alice as a Niffen, I think of her off being, kind of a menace and doing all of these wild things. And again, I always forget that's only for the last third or quarter of the season, because she spends so much time kind of locked in Quentin's head. And again, this is an episode that it's setting things up, and it's flicking that first domino to get everything else kind of falling down, and we finally move forward with that. But it's sort of frustrating to watch Quentin just once again refuse what the story is asking of him, basically, which is we need to let this all-powerful ghost creature go so that she can then create more story.
Yes. So the beginning of this episode, I literally skipped back 3 or 4 times because I was wait, this has to be the wrong episode. Josh is a werewolf already? That is so sudden and so weird that they make a joke that this is a cage for werewolves, and then he's just there as half werewolf.
I also legit looked, I paused and I was no, this is the right episode we're talking about. I was this is out of nowhere. But okay.
It's very, because also that character, he's in this episode literally just to do that. He doesn't serve the plot in any way. And again, it's that sort of it's the way of, their world building. They're just adding more like texture and humor to this episode that's kind of a table setting episode. And it's very Buffy of them to have, you know, the chill nerdy guy be the one that's like, yeah, I'm a werewolf. I caught it through sex. I'm not a full werewolf. I get like hairy and I pee.
And I looked like Oz when he would tell Willow to run before he was full. It's weird. It's a little like jarring, but I think you're right, Philip. It's like they're just kind of world building, and the show does that sometimes, right? Where it's just like, yeah, here's a thing. We might go back to it, we might not, but. And Josh is so, especially at this point, not amazing. Like he's like kind of reoccurring, but still own like. I don't think he's even in this season till like 2 episodes ago.
It could so easily, that character could have been Todd at this point as well. Like they're both so underdeveloped, and like they become beloved parts of the universe, but like we're really not there yet because season 2 is such a. There's so many moving parts, and that you kind of get the feeling that the writers are all like, well, what are we going to do with him and with him and with her and with her, and we're getting there.
Yes. You know, Philip, I was thinking about that when I was watching this. I was like, some of this, because again, I love this episode. I love the musical number. But yeah, some of the stuff with the episode, I was like, I wonder if, because we're so like, we're getting there. I was like, I wonder if they were still like at this point, we haven't really landed on where we're going yet in the writer's room. It almost feels like they were still like kind of toying with where they were going. I still don't even remember how I know how the season ends, but I don't fully even remember.
Yeah, I think the status quo is very much like maintained here. That's why I say it's like a stepping stone. Like there are slight movements, but like generally, like the pieces are still in their firm places. You know, like all these characters are still kind of in that realm of where they've been for most of like season 2. You know, there's not like any huge leaps of character development.
Laz, I just have to tell you, I just got very distracted while you were talking. So I was like, Chucky's about to kill Laz. I just noticed the little like top of Chucky's head and his arm over your couch.
Yes, oh my God, I didn't see that.
I have horror Easter eggs in my very meticulously designed apartment.
Like if we were in a movie, that would be the sign that you were about to be killed. It's like, oh, we kind of see the killer over by the couch. Is it the killer?
Every time I clean, I pose him differently. So this time he's like just being like, yeah, I'm chilling.
Like it looks like he's like waiting to attack. Like, anyway, so yeah, I also put in my notes that I can remember when I watched the show being like, because we do the one thing the show does is it's consistent with like if it has a character thing, like Josh does have this lycanthropy. We kind of drop it, but it's always there, right? And I remember in a future episode when it's brought up in a bigger way, I remember being like, I don't fucking remember this. And this is probably why, because it's like 2 minutes of this episode where we are introduced to it. But yeah, so
because of the prosthetics that he's wearing, you could even like forget that it's that specific character. Like you don't, you know, he's not recognizable exactly.
Yes.
And it's just like, it's a bizarre choice. And because I'm always thinking like, okay, like why are, you know, the writers deciding to put certain things in certain episodes? And it's like, I was thinking a lot about this with Julia and kind of her, you know, not having a shade for this current arc. And it's like, oh yeah, like there's a lot of really dark and like dangerous things happening. It's like, how do we just introduce a little bit of levity? And it's like, okay, Josh is a werewolf and Julia continues to not have a break, and she is still on this like horrendous spiral, but she's at least having fun because she's lost all of her empathy.
Yeah. I appreciate that like Dean Fogg is kind of just like ugh.
Yeah.
Throughout most of the show, but especially in this episode when he's like later when they arrive with the senator and he's like, because of course, why not?
Why not?
He's like, whatever, I'm going to clean my glasses. Just be done with it.
He really is like mean drunk Giles, and I like it. Katie and Penny get the button from Quentin's stuff. I forget that we're still kind of in the like Quentin and Penny are. I'm glad that I think next season we more like, yeah, Penny's friends with everyone. We just like drop the like, because like he's like, can I help you stealing from me? And he's like really like aggressive and mad at them, and they're like, just take the button and leave.
Yeah.
I don't like the like, is Penny a friend? Well, he's kind of not a friend. Well, he is a friend, but I like don't always love that. So I'm glad we like
in
settled.
this episode as well, he's kind of like, apart from with Katie, but even with Katie in some scenes, he's just doing the Penny like abrasive, rude thing, whether or not the situation ever calls for it. And it's like, okay, like button up your shirt for God's sake. Like when they storm into the senator's office, it's like, oh, you all look like eco-terrorists because of how Penny is dressed.
Yes,
Right.
I would agree.
We quickly go to Fillory. I like when he says we might be the least trusted monarchs in Fillory. Thank God they don't have polls here. I forget. I wrote this line down. I don't even remember what it's from. It's like one problem at a time, because they're talking about the Wellspring and the Lorians, I think. I gotta say, I know we're gonna talk about the blue outfit. I do think Margot and Elliot both look hot here. Like, I think both their outfits are well fitting. Margot looks good in like whatever the hell you call it, like a big puffy collar.
Like the ruffy sort of, but not a bolero, but it's like it's a high collared dress thingy, and obviously we love her in a crown.
Yeah.
Elliot always looks great in those very structured, like white blousey tops that they put him in.
I will say though, if it weren't for Margot, I don't think Fillory would work as well as it does.
No, I think you're right.
Because she's like the audience. She's like, what the F? Like,
yeah.
She's like, this is ridiculous, but I'm also sassy and I could deal with whatever.
Yeah.
I think there's something about that and the performance that like brings me back into it when I'm getting lost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, not to get too ahead of ourselves, but later on in the episode where she's like, Sloth, you're the only one who I can trust to be real with me. And it's so silly, but she is taking it so seriously, and I love that.
Yes, I think about like Summer telling me that she would watch Buffy a lot for inspiration, and like that makes a lot of sense, right? Because like that feels very Buffy, where it's like, yeah, we're gonna deliver this like very stupid, ridiculous line, but we're gonna sell it and you're gonna buy it and you're gonna love it.
But it's, oddly enough, it's like not the lines, it's more like the circumstance.
Yes.
So I appreciate that they address that through, her and Elliot in like such true ways at times where I'm like, yes, this is ridiculous. What I'm watching is super dumb sometimes and makes no sense. But you guys keep on drawing me in. Like I love that.
It's like how people will rag on Beer Bad, and I think it's supposed to be stupid, so that's why I enjoy it. But the one thing I feel like everyone can agree on is Sarah Michelle Gellar commits. It's a stupid fucking caveman role, and Sarah Michelle Gellar like took it seriously and sells herself as like a dumb cave person.
Oh, absolutely, and it's what this show does as well, where no matter how silly the situation, the characters are always absolutely like in character.
Yes.
Like we've talked about it before. I think it was an episode that I was on with Sabrina earlier this season, where it's like Elliot wants to be liked by everyone. Margot doesn't care about being liked. She wants the practical results. And so Elliot's like, I will go into one-on-one combat and I will be the most beloved king ever. And Margot's like, ugh, he's already seeing the statues. And she's thinking practically.
Yes, I love that. I wrote that line down, and she's like, "He's already seen the statue." Like she, and that's what I like in friendships too. And I feel like all of the Slayerfest co-hosts know me pretty well, so y'all can predict Ian's take on a thing. And I love that, seeing that in a show where it's like they have these like interactions where she's like, "Oh, this is annoying," but like she loves him. It doesn't matter. Like she's gonna read him and say he's being ridiculous, but then we just move on. To your point, Laz, of like, Margot is the audience. I really, when she's like, well, Julia committed tree genocide, and Pick is like, let's use a less incendiary word. I was like, oh, fuck.
Yeah, that was like funny, not funny.
Yes.
In 2025, I was like, oh yeah, governments don't like it when you use the G word.
Fucking Christ. And I love that I forget the guy's name, the guy that is with the sloth when he's like, well, there is a blah, blah, blah. And she's like, less words, say the thing. And like, I often feel that, like, Laz, you and I are not big on fantasy. And I feel like that's how you and I feel with fantasy too,
Oh, yeah.
often, where it's like, yeah, I don't need a map of the world. Just tell me what I need to know.
Yeah, it's like let's get less of this like folklore like combo and just like tell me how it is and like let's get something done. Let's be practical and enough. I'm in this position that I don't even want to be in.
Yeah.
So it's like get her done, like enough.
So then we hit the credits, and we're gonna move to Katie and Penny and Quentin. So Quentin, we just get a brief blip of Josh peeing in the cage next to him. He's marking his territory. Katie and Penny with the button are getting Julia.
I found it really funny that, like, is this Katie's first time in Fillory? She's like, oh, Elliot's king of all this. And I was like, oh, God, she really has been, like, out on her own,
Right?
completely separate from the rest of the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because Julia had been there, right? Like, Julia's been there. I mean, she's now in the dungeon, but, like, her and Julia are so removed. I do like Katie better once she starts being more in the group.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something that I appreciate about this episode is like even whenever all of the characters are at odds, like outside of Fillory, at least Julia and Katie and Penny are all at oh god, I was about to say break bills. Ooh. And so it's like yeah, they're not in the horrible grey blue zone that they have been for the first like season and a half. It's like everyone is slowly being brought back into the fold.
Yes.
There's something about that balance, though, like in this episode that, like, I was really considering and really thinking about a lot. Whereas, you know, in Fillory, things were, you know, I would say a little more fantastical. And then seeing kind of like the on the ground, more serious stuff, I appreciated that balance of storytelling because it gave me two tones to like, you know, consider at the same time versus, you know, just being stuck with like one narrative and one style.
That's fair. And while they don't all always work for me, I think it does make it a little bit like for people like you and I, Laz, that aren't as into fantasy, it's like, okay, well then I get a break from maybe the storyline I don't love, and then we go to a different one, and that like it does work to the show's advantage. And I think they do it better here. In season 1, I don't think they did it as well with the balance of the stories, but I think they're doing a better job in season 2. And season 3, I think they very much find the balance.
Yeah.
Of all the different stories. Yeah, so I do like Katie's mention of this dungeon is nicer than anywhere I've ever lived as a kid. They break
she
out.
Is Faith, we all know that.
She really is. They break Julia out and they go to Reynard's. Well, they like first tell Julia about Reynard's son. It's Congressman John Gaines.
Played by Christopher Gorham, who every time he shows up in anything, I'm like, oh, hey, it's that guy.
I don't know that I've seen him in anything.
So he was in like, you know, not to be a Ryan Murphy completist, but Popular, which is like the first TV show he ever made.
Yeah.
Christopher Gorham was like in that, a big character in that show. And then I feel like he was in a lot of like nerdy genre shows kind of throughout the early 2000s. Oh, yeah. And so like in my head, he's just like always been in everything.
Which is weird because like my perspective, like I know that I've seen him in stuff and probably a lot of stuff, but he reminds me of so many other kind of like pseudo geeky, lanky, like white actors where I'm like, yeah, but I can't pinpoint you. I'm like,
okay, as a horror person, Laz, did you ever watch Harper's Island?
I don't believe I have.
Okay. Sidebar, it's great. It's a slasher series. It ran for one season, and it's about a wedding party on an island off the coast of like Maine or something. And each episode, like one character is killed off, and Christopher Gorham is like one of the main characters, and it's great fun. It's like I know what you do last summer, but like on an island, it's so much fun. And he's in that. So I recommend it all the time because there's a character in it called Chloe who I just think is fantastic.
This guy was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh,
Was
yeah,
he?
He's James, and I only have eyes for you.
I only have eyes for you. Oh, the ghost.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, 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 yeah, of
Once I
course.
saw that on his IMDb right now, I was like, oh yeah, now I remember. I remember that
Yeah.
person on Buffy. Yeah,
And,
yeah.
and it's funny because now we're watching him in The Magicians, which is like mid 2010s, and it's like, oh yeah, this man is fully 30, but like I feel like his heyday was in kind of genre like CW teen shows.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny because we also have the guy that plays Forrest on Buffy in this episode as well. So
Yes, and in this episode, Margot's like, "Oh, you can kill him. He's like 50," and I was like, "Don't date all of us."
right. Because I was like, no, he probably was. Like,
But as Elliot points out, he is a DILF. He is aging very well.
he is. So they go to see the senator. I kind of like the idea of this. I almost wish they had done a little bit more with it, but I do like a senator who maybe doesn't know he has this like influence and power, but he is using it. Like that's, Katie mentions him later when she's like, have you ever failed at anything? What do you mean you don't have powers? And
Well, it's basically like the Omen, right? The Antichrist gets placed with this powerful, like, political couple, and the aim is that maybe one day the devil will be in the White House. Like,
also, and not to be that person, but like also a little relevant. I'm like, is there a demigod running my country? Is that why everyone is like,
oh,
great?
Let's not give that person that much credit. Thank you.
The scene where Katie is trying to get John to believe that all of his successes are maybe due to his like magical heritage. It's like, oh, it's like watching any cishet white guy learn about privilege for the first time.
Yes.
He's like, no, I worked really hard. And she's like, yeah, but have you ever failed at anything?
Right. And it's like, normally, even if you work hard, you fail at some things. Like, so I do, we get the Julia stuff as well as I feel the way I do about Julia's shade that I do about the Nif and Alice, even though it's only been like 2 episodes, but I'm like, oh, come on, can she get a break? Can she just be like good and like not falling apart, not needing an abortion she can't get, not being sexually assaulted, like not losing her, for all intents purposes, soul. Like I just...
She's being given like one note to play here, which is like, she's trying to kill him, but also she's very glib about it. And it's like, there's not like everyone else is taking it like as seriously as they should be, and she isn't. And so like as an actor, it's sort of, she's kind of penned in a bit. So it's, I can't remember how long the no shade thing goes on, but I am already a little bit, it's kind of running thin.
Like I remember how we resolve it, but I don't remember when I don't remember when that happens. Just my timeline of the show is always like, the memory of my timeline of the show is like all over the place.
I'll also say, like, again, similar to the Alice storyline, Niffin storyline, it's redundant at this point, where it's like, and I don't like to throw shade, but I think that there's very little nuance behind Julia's performance. It's all just very flat and monotone and kind of like, I have no emotions, whatever, who cares? It's like, so part of that is like, it's hard to grasp anything. Like if they gave her like a little nugget of like, oh, I care about this for real, and then like slide back, I think we would kind of think about the storyline a little differently, if that makes sense.
Whereas I feel like with the actress playing Alice, like she's getting to play a whole new character where there's no empathy or conscience, but she's still full of like passion and desire, and she's like all
range of emotion.
Like she's angry and she's like pissy and cunty and like that, and clearly having a lot more fun with it. Whereas with Julia,
it's even if it goes like off the rails, like desperation on her part.
Well, I think
I want this. Like, please.
I think it's like, so because I remember how it's resolved, I feel like even how it's resolved proves like, kind of enforces my point of they're too similar. It's two similar storylines that are like, we're already dragging one out and then we're adding the same one again to another character. And it's like, I'm like exhausted by that at this point. I'm like, give these ladies like a break, one at a time. But we do get there with both of them.
It's also a bit sort of unfortunate for them that, you know, these characters are both currently being portrayed as like super bitches with no limits, and yet neither of them is as iconic as Margot. And Margot has a shade and is still alive. Like
That's also true.
And I think part of it is because they are narratively and, you know, directorially, you know, put in a certain kind of space.
Yeah.
I think Margot and Summer portraying that she has more space to kind of like add little nuance, even if she's snarky. It's all in the eyes.
Yes, Laz, I literally wrote down when we get to Fillory, I wrote down like her eyes. Like I wrote down a note about her, like
because she could say the worst thing, but then right after that moment, she could throw like the camera a look, and you're like, oh man, like
it's very akin to like Sarah Michelle Gellar. Like she like did really good eye acting where like her eyes would get wide and like you were like, oh, I know Buffy's upset, even though she's trying to hide it. Like we knew, I don't know. It's really Sarah Michelle Gellar's like facial expression acting is always. I feel like we've talked about that before, Philip.
Oh, always.
Yeah. So the senator kind of like freaks out, faints, but knocks them all on their asses. They bring him back to Fillory.
No, they bring him to the cottage, right?
Oh, right. They bring him to college because Todd is like, is that the senator dude?
And it's so funny to me now whenever Adam DeMarco shows up, because I recently binged Overcompensating, where he's another 30-year-old playing a college student still, but also he's such a horrible douche in that show. And it's like, oh, it's Todd. He's so sweet.
I think he's so hot too. Like I'm like
such a cutie. Oh my god, he's so cute. I
raised my hand for that. I saw him in The White Lotus season 2, and I was like, "Can I marry you? You're the right amount of geeky, lanky, not too over buff.
Yeah,
you have like a nice face." I'm like, just come to Laz.
He was on a show at the same time as The Magicians called The Order, which was like a Netflix supernatural soap. I think it got cancelled, but there was like one scene where he had his shirt off, and because my algorithm loves to call me the F slur, the thumbnail on the Netflix home screen was just Adam DeMarco with his shirt off.
that feels correct.
But yeah, love his like those tight dark curls, gorgeous. But I love that Julia just shuts him up by just saying vodka Gibson, 4 onions, and you know what? That's a great order.
Philip, I think of you anytime they're ordering a drink, because I feel like they order drinks in a very like posh way, and I feel like that's you. Like I feel like you make drinking classy, where I'm like trashy. Like I remember when we went out drinking when you were in New York, and you're like, should we be trashy and do a shot? And I was like, I'm always trashy and doing a shot, so yeah, sure. Like,
and then you taught me what Fireball is.
Yes.
I wish you could forget that, my friend. Oof.
My favorite shot. It tastes good, although it gives me a really terrible hangover now.
Ian, no.
I know.
We definitely did. Danger Girl.
Listen, Philip and I definitely did too many that night.
Oh yeah,
after already drinking all night. So what is it? Is it just Reynard pops up there?
Well, they have that like I don't even know what the barrier meant, because everyone just walked through it, and then he pops up.
I think it's like he shouldn't be able to, but then he it's like they can, but he shouldn't be able to, but then he can.
Oh, but then there's a brownout, and the wards go down.
Oh, you're right.
They have an emergency like magic battery, which is like a thing that they're introducing now that will become important in a later storyline. And so I think they everyone else goes and hides in like one classroom that they can ward.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically like Reynard is able to talk to his son through the wards like telepathically, and then the wards come down, and then he basically is able to enter the school. And it just the panic in that scene reminded me of very late in season 5 of Buffy, where Glory is just like on the campus, and it's like, oh god, like anything could happen, someone's gonna die.
Yeah, you're right, because like Glory she kind of like had the same power, right? Where it's like if she went in a room, you knew no one could fight her. The same way with Reynard, where it's like even our like strongest heroes cannot go face to face with this guy, and like So it's almost like, oh, is he going to kill like anyone he walks by, everyone he walks by? And like, the thing I like about him is, which they did with Glory too, where it's almost like he gets a kick out of it, right? Where he's like,
Yeah.
look at everyone running. And he's just like, he doesn't actually do anything to anyone he passes by when he could easily like snap them all in half. But he's just kind of like, look at these people. Huh. Stupid.
And yeah, he's playing with them because he freezes Penny and Quentin. He's like, oh yeah, I learned that from the Beast. And he's, he's like, yeah, I'm just like, and then his son shows up and he's like, oh, I was never going to hurt them. And obviously we know that he's lying.
For a low budget show, the effect of them being frozen but the eyes moving, I highly appreciated that.
It's very creepy. Like just like in the first episode when we first see it, it's like, oh God, like that's horrifying because it's like that sort of thing when you're in a bad dream and you can't move.
Yeah. That's always what I think of is like that dream thing, or like when you're moving weird in a dream and you're like, why am I doing this? Julia, when she like pushes Quentin out of the barrier, I was like, ugh. I appreciate that Quentin is very forgiving with her. I don't know that I'd be this forgiving at this point. Like, I think I might never speak to her again. After she made me institutionalized in my brain when she knew that it was like I was depressed and then did this. I'm like, I don't know that I can get over these things.
It's because she's pushing him to what we know will be like almost certain death. And like we know that she and Alice have had a conversation, but we also know that Quentin refuses to let Alice out. I have a note from like when Julia talks to Quentin as Alice. A of all, Quentin's cunty acting as Alice, great. He's having a lot of fun.
It was one of my favorite moments in the episode because like he really did like evoke that kind of like sass. And I was like, I'm like, good on you, Mr. Actor Man.
And it's so funny because he's like, he's portraying that like, oh my God, I hate being stuck in this like human body. And then he's like, ugh, and now I'm going to pass out. But yeah, Niffin Alice and shadeless Julia, my note is when two queens come together to maximize their joint slay.
Yes. And you know what? The thing Jason Ralph does do good is sometimes when they're like, when it's like a straight dude actor has to play the girl, he just ends up doing like a weird homophobic performance. And I don't think his fell into that.
No, like it actually sincerely, I got lost in it for like a moment where I was like, oh, this actually sounds like Alice taking over somebody else's body.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do.
Yes, because like I said, sometimes when shows do that, it's like the dude just ends up doing a weird homophobic performance. And it's like, that doesn't sound like that woman. Yeah.
He's not doing gay. He's doing, I'm playing my dead ex-girlfriend who is pure repressed rage.
Yeah. I guess we end that storyline with the senator and him grab hands, teleport away. Julia's pissed. Then she wakes up in a no magic cell. And Katie kind of is like, I can't make excuses for you anymore. You're being destructive. You're a mess.
And she's talking to her like she's an addict or like a friend who's, kind of maybe been going through some kind of mental health crisis where it's like something has happened to you that is not your fault, but you are now making it everyone else's problem and you're using it as an excuse to hurt people.
Yes. Yeah. This feels like of shadeless Julia. This is like one of the first times someone talks to her and she seems to like, she's not happy about it, but it feels like this more lands with her than like Margot throwing her in jail, right? Like,
yeah, I think there's something to be said about, even going back to what we were saying earlier about the similarities but differences between Julia and like Alice as a, Nephrin. What I think is interesting is that like Julia's arc is a little more boring.
Yeah.
And then Alice, like, it's a little more fun because she gets to be like fun,
she gets more to do. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, like I think it was a previous episode. I know you watched both, Laz. So maybe is it the previous episode that opens with her like yelling at him in the library?
Yeah.
And that's a good scene. And she does a really good job in that. And like, Julie doesn't get to do those like fun
No,
crazy bad things.
it's always like kind of monotone, but
Yeah.
we'll move on from that because, of course, I will always sit here and support my girl Alice.
So now we'll move on to Margot and Elliot.
Woo!
I know. Save the best for last. She's like, which it like brings us to two things. And he's like, how many things are they? And she's telling him that like, or Fen is right. No, Margot. I didn't put like who said what, but I think it's Margot and then Fen comes in.
Margot tells him that
this king has never lost, right?
This king has never lost, and even if he gets the sword fighting spell to work, that there will be brownouts and he might be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And that's when Fen comes in and brings him. She's like, the thing, so Elliot constantly reminds me of you, Philip. It's like Elliot reminds me of like a weird mix of me and you, but more you. When he's like,
that's a huge compliment.
I will take that.
But he's like, if I knew I'd be venting to my wife about my magical kingdom, I'd have done more drugs. And I was like, I feel you, Elliot. Like, she brings him the sword. I do like that we keep up the fact that that's like her family's thing, right? She's good with knives. She's good with sharp things because that's when we meet her dad. That's like their thing, right?
Absolutely. And acknowledging like, you know, a bit of the class system again within Fillory. It's like, yeah, like all the kings are too lazy to do their own magic. So they've made the spell like one line.
Yes, which I appreciate all the parallels of like shitty government things that we put in this magical kingdom government. Margot then goes to talk to the sloth, as we said. It's like, I love her talking to it. She's told to petition the fairies, and her delivery of fairies. Do I know about the fairies?
Well, she's gonna. Oh my god. The minute that guy said petition the fairies, I was like, I have been waiting for this all fucking season.
Yes.
Because like I thought they showed up so much earlier, and we only see a glimpse of them in this episode.
Yes.
And it's like
when we saw the little hands, I was like, wait, that's it? We don't see more of it. But I think it is like next episode we start seeing more of them.
Yeah. Well, and we see them out of the corner of Margot's eye at the very end of the episode. But it's just, this is the kind of fantasy I love where it's like, yeah, you're going to make a bargain with a fairy and it's going to go not the way you think.
I mean, this is like, we talk about this a lot, but this is like, the fairies are like, almost like fantasy and horror. Like it's like a little combination of both with how brutal they are.
They're very like that. Alien and inhuman and just, it's like, oh yeah, this is like a side of magic where like these beings are pure magic and they, a bit like with the Niffin, it's like, yeah, they don't understand or care about humans the way that like the other characters do.
And I gotta say, we get more full imagery of them, but I liked their design. I think the design is cool.
Yes.
It's like, well, we're never going to be able to afford Tilda Swinton, but we're going to make that the inspo anyway.
Yeah. I never thought about that, but you're right. They like warn her about not doing it, but she's like, understandably, they don't quite explain it to her that well, I don't think, right?
The way that they say it, though, it really made me laugh when the guy says, well, the fairies are famously mercurial, and she says, have you met your king?
Yes. And I feel like that doesn't sell what they are that well.
Yeah, it's like, oh, they have their whims and moods. It's like, well, that's everybody. No, these creatures, you need to really like explain how serious things are going to be.
Yes.
Well, I think all these deals as well, you know, it's like even harking to like comic books, like a Mephisto deal.
Yeah.
It's like you never know what you're really in for just based on, you know, like one phrase. You know, if somebody came up to me and was like, I can give you everything you want, I'd be like, tell me everything I need, like a contract. I need to look at it for a few days. I need to know what I'm selling.
Hey, honey, this is why I have an agent. I need somebody to read that fine print for me.
God. So we then, what is it? She does a pep talk. Elliot, he's scared. And this is, I'm trying to think of how to say this without spoilery. We are building to such a good moment for Margot consistently for the like last half of this season where like she is the one that is like, I like that she's the one who's like, Elliot, we got to do this. And this is what singing into battle has helped people. We're going to do that. And he's like, he needs her, right? He does. And I love that. I love seeing her. She's kind of also learning about how to do all this shit, right? Like she's kind of learning as she goes along as well. But she's going to support Elliot and figure out how to help him at every turn. She's like ride or die for him.
I mean, we compare Margot to Cordelia all the time, quite rightly. And what I always think about is like Buffy versus Cordelia. Like Buffy was chosen and like constantly like resisted her calling, whereas Cordelia chose to become a hero eventually. And Elliot was chosen as High King. It came to him. He didn't ask for it. And he's been like bitching all season that like, oh, I have to like live in this castle with my wife. And Margot is the one consistently like choosing the job and choosing to do the work. And this is like just another example of how like, yeah, she is, spoiler alert, potentially a better ruler than Elliot.
For the sake of adding some drama to this conversation for our listeners, I would actually say that Margot is much more of a competent leader, even if she doesn't like expect it. She has the intuition to do it. Mm-hmm. Maybe not the best delivery.
Yes, but she's a little severe. Yeah,
I don't think Elliot's a great leader. I think that he is led by a stronger woman who cares about him, perhaps sometimes more than he cares about her.
And everything he does is about how he is perceived. He wants to be seen as being a good king, whereas Margot, as we see in this episode, is willing to make very difficult choices, even if it means that people will hate her, if it gets the result that, is going to kind of benefit the greater good.
So like when you mention like the, parallels of like Margot and Cordelia, like I don't consider her even close to Cordelia, because I think Cordelia, until they rewrote her character later in Angel, I think that Cordelia, was basic. I think that...
Oh, I was fully referring to Cordelia, like, yeah, in that final form, yeah.
Yeah, but like, I think Margot from the beginning to when we see her later on, like she has always been herself and maintained that and grown, but not changed personality traits, if that makes sense.
I think I like that as the show goes on, we're growing with her. Like we're watching her, and I think there's even a moment either later this season or in season 3 when they literally talk about their like where they are versus where they started. And I really like, you're both right that like the thing she needs to learn is her delivery of like, okay, well, we can't just tell that person to fuck off. Like that's not a good motive. Like that's not going to work. But like it's because she knows what the end result needs to be. Right. And she's like, just fuck it. Like she says in the beginning, less words, get to the point. Like she doesn't want to do a bargain because she's like, I fucking know what we need to do. Just tell me the thing. Just like, let's do the thing. Yep. Why are we wasting time? And I can appreciate that. Right. Like, so the way she says, that's why Beyonce is the boss, and is just like doing her little magic thing. And I'm like, oh, I fucking love her.
And again, I love that we were introduced to this with the Beast earlier in the season, where they wave their hands and you see the musical notes appear, and we're going to come back to it again and again. Each season is going to have a musical moment. And I was just like, oh God, I love this show.
Is him saying "Don't make me sing" a reference to Kristen Wiig on SNL?
It has to be. The way he says it,
right?
Don't make me sing. And the way he's doing it while practicing his sword play, it's so camp. And he's like, don't make me sing, and then immediately starts singing.
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig is my spirit animal. So I picked up on that. I was like, yep.
I was like, am I reaching or is this okay?
No, and the people writing this show, like, it's very pop culture. I feel like any moment, like any queer DNA that we see in it, like they came by that honestly.
Yeah,
that's fair. I am not a musical person. I'm not a musical theater person. I fucking love this. I love it. I love it. I love it. I really appreciate, and this is no shade, but I appreciate that it's them. It's like them singing, and it sounds like those two people. It's not like Beyonce singing. It's like these two characters singing.
And like Margot is not the strongest singer, and that becomes like a point in one of the later musical numbers where they even like she references it herself.
Yes.
And that's probably why they have like Fen come running in to do the soprano bit.
Yeah.
But again, I love that Fen is kind of folded into this moment because of she is being folded into the Elliot and Margot relationship. These people are going on a journey together.
Yes.
And we know how great that is all going to end up. And so I love that. I found it very moving this time around.
I agree. I was thinking that I put like in my notes, I love that it's Fen and Margot with him because that makes sense. They are the like number one and number two in his life, right? Like Margot being number one over his wife, but still. And I just really like that it's like these two women attending to the man, but the man is a gay man. So it's not like your typical musical theater where it's like, oh, they're both in love with him. It's like, no, these are two women who knows that he is a gay man. They're not trying to like court him. It's just they do love him. And like they are his support system, right?
Also, I love when Margot says, oh, I'm cutting the verses that aren't relevant to our situation. And I'm like, good, because Les Mis is such a long show.
I wrote down like a couple of specific notes, and that is even the way she delivers it. She does like this, like kind of like sing-songy whisper, like, oh, well, I didn't because it's not really relevant here, but it's great. Like it's so like good meta. It's like the meta shit that this show does really well. Where like, I was looking up reviews of this episode actually, and someone said that they felt it was the show getting ahead of itself before someone on Reddit could complain, well, they cut out a verse. And that was them being like, we know we're cutting out a verse.
I also think there's also, and the show does this very well, there's like almost like an irreverence to like pop culture while embracing it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, yeah, this is like a huge ass musical that, you know, speaks verbosely with its musicality, and it's like, no, like it didn't make sense for the story, that line, so like cut it out.
Yeah.
And I'm a musical theater, you know, like I was raised with that kind of stuff, and I'm like, yes, thank you.
I will say, Philip, the one thing I did remember, I saw Les Mis when I was a kid, and the thing I remembered was, this is too long. Like, that's the thing I remember from seeing Les Mis.
Oh, yeah, it would have added like an extra 5 whole minutes to the episode. And maybe, you know what, maybe it's a bit like with the Taylor Swift thing in season 1 where like, well, we're only going to have 30 or 40 seconds of it. It's still going to cost us thousands of dollars, but we're just going to need this one bit that serves the story and pushes it forward. And then we're going to, but although like they do live in this musical moment for longer than I remembered, like, they are walking out of the castle onto the battlefield, and it's like, there's only like a dozen people there, but it still feels very theatrical.
It does.
That's why, like, at some point I was sitting there, I was like, how much did they have to cost on, like, you know, or like pay for licensing for like just the usage of the music?
And for how long it goes on.
Using the music like on a radio is one licensing thing, but like recreating it is like a whole different licensing property. So that budget must have been real good for this episode.
And like, I love that they do outfit changes. Oh, in the beginning, I do like, they do this like very sexy, like they sit on their thrones and they look at each other like they're about to kiss, and then the chairs are pulled away, and it's like, I don't know, I'm very into it. And I like when Tick walks in and he's singing more like boisterously, and he's like over, like almost singing over the other dude. I like appreciate that.
Well, of all, like, obviously, I think, you know, everyone in that supporting cast will be a trained performer. So like, if you've got a load of triple threats in your cast, like, use them.
Yes.
But yeah, like the moment with the chairs, like some like people being carried on a chair. It's very musical theater, but it's like I enjoy it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's just very cool. Yeah.
I like that they like the outfit changes are part of the number, which I liked. Like I like that it's like when they're walking, like Margot has her dress on, but she doesn't have like the flowy jacket yet. And it's like we're like putting the pieces on as we're in different rooms. I also love the end, how it ends with them with their fists in the air and the Lorians are like, are we fighting? What's going on?
It's almost like a sort of like a distraction tactic. They're like, why are they singing at us? What is happening? Like, we're so confused.
And Elliot, it's a metaphor.
Bring back Kristen Wiig. What's happening? Oh my
god. So the like Prince S says that he was Javier, and I love Margot being like typecasting, like she's annoyed immediately. Shut up, she doesn't care.
You were the cop, boo.
Yeah. We start the fight, and Forrest from Buffy runs away. He like gets one like hit in and runs.
And I love Margot's way of putting it as, well, the king bitched out, so I think we win. Like,
yes. And like again, Laz, to like what it's like Margot saying that in a fantasy setting is not normally your like fantasy speak, and that's why it fucking works, right? Like she's like, what the fuck? He left. I don't fucking like he lost. And they're like, no, we have to do the proper whatever.
You know, and again, I always come on these podcasts because you always select very interesting episodes for me, Ian. It's like a running joke at this point. He puts me on the worst Buffy episodes that he knows I hate. But, you know, like with this, I think what saves kind of like those fantasy elements again is just Margot almost speaking to the camera and the audience and just being like, this is ridiculous and stupid. And like, I don't care.
Yeah. So they fight a little bit. We kind of quickly, it's like, they just like the duel of it is almost like inconsequential, right? It's like, whatever.
Oh, they spent all their money on Les Mis music, not like fight choreography this week. Yeah. And that's fine. That's where it should have gone. Yeah.
I don't need more of the fight.
Pointing of swords.
Yeah.
A lot of and holding it in a very dramatic pose. But like Elliot is faring well because he has this spell on his side, and Margot turns to the son and says, "I'd give you an update, but I hate to see boys cry." Which just God, I love her.
That's one of my absolute favorite Margot lines, and the like sexy way she delivers it as if she's flirting, but she's really saying "fuck you" is so good.
Yeah, it's great. And then we start, and this is again, it's just also good. We start to see the magic failing, and it's like Elliot is, you know, this really like powerful swordsman one moment, and then the next he can barely even lift the sword. It's that heavy, and I'm like, oh, that's such a good way of showing immediately. He's like, oh God, no, and it's like you see his arms drop, and it's just he's in trouble.
I feel like watching shows and movies, I often forget that weapons are heavy. Like my trainer went, what's that called? Clay pigeon shooting? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, it really like hurt my shoulder. And he like pulled his collar down and he had like a bruise on here. And I was like, what the fuck is that from? He's like, the gun, it's really heavy. And when you shoot it, it like pushes back on you.
Yeah.
And I like didn't even think about that. I forget that weapons are like, oh, it's not just like anyone can like shoot a gun while they're running and like be fine.
And because weapons are not useful. Hey, audience, your PSA for the day is don't use weapons.
Yeah.
Dangerous. Thank you.
It's a way of puncturing through the fantasy stereotypes where we are so used to seeing people like twirling swords around like they weigh nothing.
Giant axes.
We all came to this, we graduated from shows like Buffy, where you see that all the time. And it's just like a nice bit of reality showing through.
Yeah. Then he starts to like lose. He has to jump up in a tree. And Margot immediately is like, all right, well, I'm going to go negotiate or petition the fairies, right? The guy who plays their ambassador, I kept being like, who is this? Like, he looked so specific. I think I was thinking he looked like, now I can't even remember the person's name.
He looks like Joseph Quinn.
Oh, he kind of does. You're right. Yeah.
I think it's the eyes.
Yeah. He has like very specific, pretty eyes.
But he looks like he's the kind of guy that you would probably, again, see in a lot of small roles in things and never be able to remember his name.
Yeah, that's true. So she meets with them, and I love this because this feels like the three of us are friends with a woman who speaks like this. When she's like, "Well, I don't love the idea, but sure, I'll get knocked up." Like, I love that she's like, "All right, I'll get pregnant, give away the baby, whatever, fuck it." Like, I like forgot about that like throwaway line, and I just love how like glib she is about like, well, that's annoying, but I'll do it. Like, and then we learn what, Philip, that it's not. She's not allowed to have one.
We learn that they specifically want the baby who is growing inside Fen.
Yes. And what is it? Isn't it like she just says like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And that's what like.
Yeah, it's like she offends the emissary, and so he will no longer like
Stay true.
negotiate with her.
Yeah.
So that's the only. It's that deal or no deal. And Margot does something very sneaky where she basically gets Fen to agree to it, but not knowing what she's agreeing to.
Yep.
Yeah. I was trying to think of like, one, I was thinking like, oh, God, I wish she'd been able to keep bargaining, but like, I don't imagine there would have ever been like a fair, normal thing, right? Like,
yeah, no,
would have gotten more ridiculous, I feel like, and more like crazy. I don't know. Because I was like, oh, maybe if she'd gotten something, but I can't imagine they would have an offer that's like, oh, that's fair and easy. I also just like wish she had told Fen. I get it, but I don't know.
It's the TV trope of miscommunication or non-communication, leading to like more drama and more story down the road. And it's frustrating in the moment to watch her like basically deceive Fen, but also like we're not expected to side with her. Like we see what she's doing, but we also see that she hates herself for it, and she owns it, and she says, I'm a manipulative cunt.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier her eyes in that scene when they just get a little bit bigger and teary-eyed, and she's like, I'm a and she like almost is like clenching her like jaw to say like, no, I'm not a good bargainer, I'm a manipulative cunt. Like,
that moment like struck me really hard because she's one of those characters that will do whatever it takes. But
she's ride or die for Elliot, right?
You often like lose that with like a bitchy character.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Whether it be male or female, you know. So I think seeing that vulnerability, the fact that she still maintains that humanity, while also being like, yeah, I gotta do what I gotta do, for my loved ones. It's like it's an impossible choice.
And like to choose between your best friend and your best friend's child, knowing that your best friend might want you to choose the child.
Yeah.
But it's an impossible choice, which makes for a great storytelling.
Yep.
I think that's what it is, because it's like, what's she gonna do? Let Elliot die? And like, I also feel like it's the choice I would have made. Like, that's what I would have done too. It's like, well, everything's not out yet. It's not like a person yet, so get that out of here. And like, sure, I'll pick that over my best friend over the thing that's not like
my best friend gets to live and they're not having a baby. Win-win.
See, I'll be the outsider, just to give again our audience a different point of view, but it would be a huge struggle for me. I don't think I could do that within like a moment's time. I would have to really consider it. I would have been like, I hear what your proposition is. Give me a couple days and I'll decide.
These fairies aren't giving you a couple days though, Laz. They're like,
I get it.
Now he's dead.
I don't know about, because
I mean, it would be,
because they're not intending to kill the baby.
Right.
So that's one thing, but the wife might.
That's
Elliot still has love for her as well, right?
For me, that's why it's not that hard of a choice. Because it's like, okay, well, it's not dead. Like,
it's a good conversation to consider, especially these days. It's like.
I mean, again, that's why I do like it, because it's like, we see that she's not loving making this. She made the decision quickly, but she's not loving it. And even to earlier on the throne, when she learns that they're not going to bargain with her anymore, her eyes again get a little like glassy, teary-eyed because she knows what decisions she has to make now. And she's
she
like,
knows the logical choice.
Right.
Sometimes logic and emotion don't combine, but you see that with her performance.
mhm.
And I think that's why it's probably the best moment in the episode, because
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's relevant. It's something that, like, again, it's an impossible choice. You know,
Yeah.
it's like, how do we like even like conceive of that notion?
And I feel bad for her when she's like on the verge of tears saying she's a manipulative cunt. It's like, I feel bad for her because she's acknowledging, yeah, this decision fucking sucked. And I did something really shitty to my best friend's wife who is pregnant. And
Yeah.
like, I hate it, but I needed to save my best friend. So,
And it's what we keep coming back to about this episode. It's like this episode is setting up so much dynamite story.
yeah.
It's like lighting the longest fuse, because so much of what's going on in this episode is then going to like blow up either by the end of the season or into season 3, and it's like we're just seeing all of it happen now, and like the way that one decision made in a difficult moment is going to have ramifications for the rest of the show.
Yeah, it really is. You're right, for the like rest of the show, like not like just the season or next season. It's like the entirety of the show.
I think the usage of, you know, Les Mis is proper and probably pointed in very much like the narrative of where they're trying to go.
Yeah.
You know, everyone is in a dark place. It's like, you know, it's like an impossible situation that they're all in, that they have to, you know, get out of, or if they don't, they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. We see Elliot and the king flirting, which I do like. I like how often Elliot gets to like maybe fuck someone in a magical kingdom. I'm like, he deserves this. Good for you. This
Right.
guy.
And the way that, again, this show is just sort of like so ambiently queer coded. It's like, well, why? Yeah, of course the king of Loria is like bisexual. Why wouldn't he be? Why? Of course, this fantasy kingdom would have different rules around sexuality and marriage.
It feels like what we talk about when we talk about vampires, right? Like, well, duh, of course they're like all going to be like bi or pan in some way. And like, that makes sense for this.
It's just like the thing. I mean, you know, the thing I hated about Game of Thrones, aside from the entire final season, was it's such a richly imagined world, but they have just imported so much of the misogyny and homophobia and racism from a quote-unquote real medieval setting. And it's like, well, you could have, you know, like how you don't have like colonial Christianity in this world, and that's the reason that so much of that stuff exists. So why is homophobia existing in this magical kingdom? And I love that in the case of the magicians, it simply doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you know, what's so magical about it is that, like, it's a non-issue for, like, everyone.
Yes.
Like, it's like everyone's just kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, polyamory, you know, being bi, being gay, being lesbian, like, who cares? Like, nobody seems to be affected by it on a personal level for the most part. And I think that's like a great message to send. Like, that's what we all want as queer people, is to just be like, okay, it's a non-issue.
And I don't know if y'all remember, there is a very brief scene, I think in season 3, where there's like a like more butch woman from another kingdom that is like flirting with Margot, and Margot is like very receptive to it. And I always think like, I love that, because like she's mostly straight, but she's like, well, you're hot, so maybe let's talk about that later.
I feel like Margot's into anyone who's into Margot.
Yes.
Because she'd be like, you have exceptional taste.
I respect your good taste because you think I'm hot, so so we go back to the throne room. When does Fen find it? Is it not here?
So Elliot comes home and they're like, oh, you're alive. And then the King of Loria follows him in and they're like, what? And that's when we find out that they are going to have a political marriage.
Right.
Fen is like okay. Like, once again, Elliot has made a choice that affects everyone and not considered anyone's feelings.
Yep.
And I think we get a small scene where Elliot like basically admits to Margot, he's like, well, if I marry this guy, it's basically like espionage. Like
Yeah.
I can keep one foot in his kingdom and like keep them at bay kind of thing.
And I don't know if y'all noticed, there's like, Margot's hair is a little bit messy. It's like fully together the whole episode, but like she's been through a lot this day. So I like that, like, there's a few strands sticking out of the crown and like.
She's just been like, yeah. She's been running her hands through that, like, oh, okay, this is fine. This is going to be fine. It's not
Mind
going to
you,
be
like
fine.
she's doing the job he should be doing.
Yes.
Right. So
Again,
he's been taking care of everything while he's gone, doing all his stuff, and like he comes back and he's like, "I got a husband. Hey, bitches!" Like, like it was a moment for me with Elliot where I was like, "Shame on you, dude. Like, I get it why you have to do it, but like you're very insensitive to like all the people that you're roping into your own BS."
It is a little bit like, to just speak incredibly generically, like it's the gay guy, maybe at brunch, he's like talking about his hookup the night before, and it's like, yeah, his female best friend is like really going through it, and he's just like, oh well, that's like a hard conversation. I just want to talk about like fun things. I just want to have fun.
Yes. Yep.
Why can't things just be nice?
Yep. Like, it's so accurate, right? It really is. And we do get a glimpse of the fairies. I think they look fucking cool.
So creepy, yeah.
And then we end on Quentin. I forgot this was in this episode. I was like, oh, the episode's over. Oh wait, no, we're going to Quentin again. He lets Alice free, right?
He finally lets Alice go, and it's been a kind of recurrent thing throughout the episode that, it's the metaphor for grief is continuing. By refusing to move on, it's killing him from the inside.
Yes.
And so he finally lets her go, and she just gives him this tiny little smirk that lets us all know she's going to be so much trouble. And then she shoots off up into the sky, and that's where we leave it.
Yeah.
And as the Alice guy in the room, what bothers me about that is that moment has not been earned. I think seeing Quentin accept things little by little would have, I think, perhaps made that more powerful, because again, with grief, you have to, deal with acceptance and letting it go. But like in that moment, I was like, I don't believe it, because earlier he was like, no, I can't lose her. He's still in the throes of like stage 1 of grief.
Right. Yes. He hasn't moved on at all.
So like letting her go, and we'll see what happens. But I didn't find that to be a genuine character moment in my mind.
It's maybe a moment where the story and where the story's going required it to happen at that moment, rather than it being an organic character decision.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. All right, gentlemen. What was your favorite outfit? We might all have the same, but Laz, I'm going to call on you first, because I'm not sure if you have the same as Philip and I.
I think that we all have the same one. I don't know how to properly describe it, but the blue Margot dress.
Oh, yeah.
So
is there like a name for? Is there like, because I feel like you're better with fashion. Is there like?
It's royal blue,
yeah,
as it should be. And it's like an off the shoulder or like single shoulder thing, and then it's like it's sort of high up at the front and long in the back. I don't really know like what the words are to describe it. It's very 2016. It's a little bit Drag Race, but it's so good for, these people are walking into battle, and their version of putting on armor is like going full glam while singing Les Mis.
Which I would also be like, no, I gotta look hot if I'm going into battle. I might die. I want to look hot.
a hard second, I would say, would be Elliot's, kind of like fencing outfit while he's fighting, the king. I
do
thought
like
that was really nice.
It's like a neon lime green.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it had like a certain embroidery. It was like, very fitting and appropriate.
So I gotta show you all. I like made this Margot because I love this outfit
Oh
so much.
wow.
This is like 100 different pieces. Every part that has a joint is a different piece from
Oh,
something.
it's so
And I
good.
was like so excited to make it because I love that outfit. I love painting in metallic colors. And I was like, ooh, I can use my metallic blue color.
I love that.
So same, yes, that's also my favorite outfit. Close second would be the outfit she wears in the beginning with the poofy collar because I think she looks really good. And this outfit's kind of the same where it's like a tight thing and then a flowy thing. Like I think those look really good on her.
Yes, yeah. In the beginning, it's like it's like a creamy white, and there's like a long train over like tights or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that like that fits her really well.
Mm.
Favorite scene, Philip?
I think it has to be the musical number, and not just because it's like the most standout scene from an episode that is otherwise all kind of transitional story. I think it's a lovely like emotional payoff for where Margot and Elliot both are in their respective stories at this point.
Yeah, I think so too. Laz?
Yeah, I would say, even though it's not necessarily a scene, but we've spoken about this a couple times in this episode, but just that look that Margot has after she's kind of made a deal with the devil, so to speak, that kind of like captured the entire episode for me.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, I'm the musical number because I fucking love it. Also, wait, I forgot to mention this. So the first time through, I don't know musicals that well. The first time I watched this, I was like, are they like making up a song that's like about Les Mis? Like I didn't realize it was. I mean, now I know that it is, but
Oh,
like,
you thought they were doing like the crazy ex-girlfriend thing where they're like doing homage.
yes, that's what, like, I really thought that's what it was since like they mentioned they cut out some lines and he says he doesn't remember the words. And I was like, oh, so like they're kind of like referencing Les Mis, but it's not a Les Mis, but it is a.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a very creative way of not paying the license fee.
Technically, you still would have to.
But it probably would be not as expensive, right?
No, because you would still have the same kind of rights. Like this is boring to everyone else but me, but I know a lot about licensing and stuff like that. I work in film and TV, so like
right.
you would still have to pay for at least the orchestration or the tone of the music, et cetera, et cetera.
All right, that's fair. What grade do we give this episode, Laz?
I would give this like a solid B plus because I think it really is a stepping stone. I don't think that it's like, the hugest episode or like something that I would, hark back to immediately. But I think that it's solid in terms of getting our characters where they need to be.
Philip?
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. B plus. Like we're finally getting to some of my favorite parts of season 2, but we're not quite there yet. So yeah, B plus.
I thought the two of you would have lower grades. I thought it was going to be, but same B plus. I was expecting C's from both of you from like where we started.
Oh, but that like the central musical number and like some of the jokes and the Margot moments, even though like the Julia stuff and the Quentin stuff is like still a slog, but then there's like some great material that really elevates the rest of it, I think.
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining me. Thank you all for listening. If you liked Slayerfest 98, you can find us on all social media platforms at SlayerFestX98. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Subscribe, give us a good rating. It really helps out the podcast. And we have a Patreon where we are going through X-Men the Animated Series, Batman the Animated Series, and all Buffy seasons as they turn 25. We just finished season 4, which I was very late on. Sometimes I'm late. I was late today to this recording. And if you want to follow me on all social, I am at ENXCarlos. Laz, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on all social medias at Laz Marquez, LazMarquez. You could also see my work in film and TV, artwork and marketing on lazmarquez.com.
And Philip?
I'm on Instagram at Philip Ellis. That's Philip with 1 L, Ellis with 2. My books are wherever you buy books. They're called Love and Other Scams and We Could Be Heroes. And I've just started a Substack because now I'm full-time author and I'm trying to do more content to promote myself. And very on theme for this episode, I've just done a post on the work of Tamara Pierce and the fantasy works that shaped my childhood. So if you are a fantasy fan, and I think if you're into the magicians, Tamara Pierce is probably quite a formative author for a lot of millennials. So I would love it if you would go along and take a look. That's philipjellis.substack.com.
All right, cool. Well, we will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.